Should therapists wear crop tops? I can't believe I'm actually asking this question. Because is a therapist suddenly less competent because they're wearing a crop top and you can see a little bit of their belly? Does it erase their education, their clinical judgment, their ability to help someone? Clearly not. But I will admit that therapy is different from most jobs. It is a deeply relational space, and how we show up can definitely influence how safe, comfortable, or understood the person sitting across from us feels. Now, I have my own opinions about this. Personally, I think a therapist can definitely wear a crop top and still be phenomenal, but I'll call it out. That's just my opinion. And as a therapist, I know I need to be a scientist practitioner. So rather than relying on anecdotal evidence or my personal perspective, let's look at what the research actually says. As I dug into this a little bit, I was a little surprised because there isn't really much modern research on how therapists should specifically be dressing. Most of the studies I found were actually from the 1970s through to the 1990s, and those studies did find something quite interesting. For therapists, clothing can actually influence first impressions. It can affect how approachable, competent, trustworthy, or warm a therapist initially seems. But here's the part that I think is getting left out. We don't have good evidence that dressing more formally actually leads to better therapy outcomes. In fact, a large systemic review looking at physicians specifically found that clothing mattered most before people got to know the physician. But after patients actually interacted with their doctor, attire became much less important in many of the studies. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Before you've built trust, your brain uses whatever information it has available to make quick judgments. Clothing is definitely one of those cues, and I think we would be blind to not acknowledge that. But once a therapeutic relationship develops, the things that actually predict good therapy are things like trust, empathy, collaboration, and a strong therapeutic alliance, not whether someone is wearing a blazer or a crop top. So, does this mean that therapists can just wear whatever they want? Like, heck, throw on some pasties and call it a day. I don't think anyone's saying that. But clothing definitely still communicates something. To me, the real question isn't, is a crop top professional? The real question is, what message does my clothing send to the particular clients that I work with?